July 18th, Saturday, Heart of the Plains, detective, Judge Tony Gravely. So 8 minutes given, 6 hides. Started right here in the hallway. I had one hide in the molding, about where my finger's at. That hide actually, depending on what the wind was doing, from time to time we have a good wind pushing from outside. If it's pushing from outside, it just pushed down the hallway towards the start line. Otherwise, it hung pretty tight, and it did, at times when dogs would go by, that hide would drift over to here, over to this doorway and along in here, and it would have a little collection on these boxes. It was in a shrink wrap tube. If you look really close, you might be able to see a little bubble in the molding. Perfect. Shrink wrap tube, and that was actually anise. All right, so that's the hallway. Only one hide in the hallway. I had 3 hides in this room. I had birch, shrink wrap tube, underneath middle of that desk. Then I had cypress, the bottom of this desk, in a slider tin. This odor collected and pushed towards the sink, and also did at times drift a little bit down where the telephone's at underneath the tables there. Actually pretty good success rate on that. A lot of handlers, although a lot of handlers would push their dogs off of the second hide. The dog would go in knowing there was 2, handler would reward, and then the handler would come out of the space. Then in this room, I had an inaccessible. It was clove in a straw. If you see the hole in the top of the desk right there, it's actually on the desk between the desk and wall. This hide drifted and pushed towards the filing cabinet, and actually those open cupboards become a little bit of a collection point too. Occasionally a little bit of information gained off of that chair right there, the black chair straight in front. The challenge with that hide was handlers calling it inaccessible. Moving on outside to the next room, excuse me. This room was a big open space, nice cabinets that a lot of handlers just really felt there should be something in there, but there wasn't. And then, if you notice sitting on top of the table, there is a remote control. That is birch in a cardboard straw that's in where the battery's at. And actually one of the batteries is kind of pushed up. I left it pushed up to let a little bit of airflow so we had a little bit of headspace. That hide early on really pushed and collected all this fabric stuff here. Some dogs actually climbed all over the chairs, everything like that. But this actually was a very high success rate. Basically, if the dog would use this information, work back to the table, and then work to the top. I kind of pretty much gave anything that was showing on top of the table, as long as it wasn't under the table. And that hide was actually a very high success rate. Then the outside portion, because there's so many squirrels and a lot of actually kitty poop, I made it pretty cut and dry. It was one hide in a rock, and it was actually birch in a cardboard straw right there in the crack that I'm pointing to. And that was it. I did have cues. I can't remember the exact amount. The exciting thing was most people made it through the entirety of the search, and there wasn't a lot of falses, which was great.